Welcome back, everybody, to the Deep Dive. Today, we're diving into e-commerce and how these online businesses are using a really cool tool to get inside their customers' heads.
Yeah. Chatbot surveys.
Right,
Yeah.
those.
Yeah.
But, why are we talking about this? We've all seen traditional surveys, and let's be honest, they're kind of boring.
Yeah, you're right. Those long forms can be a total drag.
Yeah.
But chatbot surveys are totally different. They actually feel like a conversation.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, much more engaging.
Okay, and people actually finish those then?
Oh, yeah, you see way higher response rates. Think about it. Would you rather fill out a boring form or have a quick chat?
I'd much rather chat, definitely.
Exactly. And here's the really cool part. Chatbot surveys can actually use customer data to tailor the questions. So you're not just getting generic stuff, you're getting a personalized experience.
Oh, wow. So it's like having a personal shopper, but they're gathering feedback at the same time.
Exactly. It's like a win-win for the business and the customer. And the best part is these chatbots, they never sleep. So you can be gathering feedback 24/7 across all time zones.
That's a game changer for sure. But okay, let's get down to how these things actually work. Can you walk us through like a typical scenario?
Sure. So imagine a customer is on your website, browsing products, maybe adding something to their cart, and then boom, a chatbot pops up and asks a few quick questions.
So it's all about timing, catching them when they're engaged.
Exactly. You want to be relevant, but not annoying. And the really cool part is you can trigger these surveys based on specific actions. Like, let's say someone abandons their cart. A chatbot can immediately ask why they didn't complete the purchase.
Oh, wow. So you get that real-time feedback.
Right then and there, and the customer feels heard. So it's a really valuable tool for understanding what's working and what's not.
Okay, so we've got the what and the why, but what about the what kinds of questions should businesses be asking in these chatbot surveys?
Well, you can actually use a mix of question types, multiple choice rating scales, even open-ended questions to get a more well-rounded view of what customers are thinking.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, it's about finding the right balance between the numbers and, the actual words that customers are using.
Okay, so now you've got your chatbot survey set up, you're collecting all this data, but how do you know if it's actually working? What are the key metrics that businesses should be tracking?
Great question. There are a few key things to look at first off. You want to track your response rate, which is simply the percentage of customers who complete the survey. The higher, the better, obviously.
Right, because if people aren't even starting the survey, you're not going to get much useful data.
Exactly. And then you want to look at the completion rate. This tells you how many people finish the survey once they've started. If you're seeing a high drop-off rate, it could mean your questions are too long or too complicated, or maybe the whole survey is just too long.
So keep it short and sweet.
Short, sweet, simple. I like that. And beyond those basic metrics, you also want to dig into stuff that measures the actual customer experience.
Okay. And what kind of metrics are we talking about here?
So there are three big ones that come to mind: CS, NPS, and CES.
Okay, those sound familiar, but I bet a lot of our listeners could use a quick refresher.
Sure, no problem. So CSAT stands for Customer Satisfaction Score, and it's basically a measure of how happy people are with their overall experience. Usually it's measured on a scale of 1 to 5, with 5 being the highest level of satisfaction.
So it's pretty straightforward.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Then you've got NPS, which is Net Promoter Score, and this one's all about customer loyalty. It asks people how likely they are to recommend your brand to others on a scale of 0 to 10.
So it's a measure of how likely people are to spread the word.
Yeah. And then there's CES, which is Customer Effort Score, and this one focuses on how easy it is for people to do business with you. It highlights any friction points in the buying process.
So these three metrics give you a pretty good overall picture of the customer experience.
They really do. And there are a couple of other metrics that can be useful, like time to respond. A quick response time usually means your survey is engaging. And then, of course, you want to keep an eye on the drop-off rate.
Yeah, that makes sense. Seeing where people drop off can help you optimize the survey for better completion rates.
Exactly. It's a lot like analyzing website traffic, seeing where people are bouncing and why.
That's a great analogy. And speaking of websites, let's talk about how businesses can actually integrate these chatbot surveys into their e-commerce platforms.
Okay.
Make it all seamless and easy to use for everyone involved.
Yeah, that's a really important point, but we're going to have to save that conversation for the next part of our deep dive.
Oh, man, on a cliffhanger. Okay, well, we'll be back to explore that and a whole lot more about chatbot surveys, so stay tuned.
Stay tuned. Welcome back to our deep dive into chatbot surveys.
Yeah, I'm really excited to dig into the how-to. We talked about all the benefits, but now let's talk about how businesses can actually make this happen.
Yeah, absolutely. So the good news is Integrating these surveys into your e-commerce platform is actually easier than you might think.
Oh, that's good to hear.
Yeah, a lot of chatbot survey providers, they offer these pre-built integrations with popular platforms like, Shopify, Magento, even your CRM systems.
So it's not like you need a whole team of developers to set this up.
No, not at all. It's pretty much plug and play. And once you're up and running, you can start collecting feedback at all these different touch points in the customer journey.
Oh yeah, this is where it gets really exciting for me. Imagine triggering a chatbot survey right after someone abandons their cart.
Exactly. You can get those instant insights into why they didn't buy and maybe even nudge them to come back.
That's so smart.
Yeah, and you can use it for all sorts of things, gathering feedback after someone contacts customer support or leaves a product review, even just browsing certain product categories.
It's all about being strategic.
Yeah.
Placing those surveys at just the right moment.
Exactly. And the beauty of it is you can trigger these surveys based on specific actions, so it's super personalized.
Okay, now let's talk about crafting those surveys. We talked about keeping things short and conversational, but what are some other tips for making these surveys really engaging?
Well, one thing I always stress is using clear and simple language. Avoid any jargon or technical terms that might confuse people.
Right, it's got to be easy to understand.
Exactly. And don't be afraid to inject a little personality into your chatbot's voice. A little humor or a friendly greeting can go a long way.
Oh, I love that it's all about making it feel human, even though it's, technology.
Right. And here's another tip. Use visuals, adding images or GIFs. Even short videos can make the whole thing more visually appealing.
Yeah, visuals are always a good thing.
For sure. And don't forget about mobile optimization. I mean, so much e-commerce traffic is coming from phones and tablets these days.
That's a good point. You got to make sure it works seamlessly on any device.
Exactly. And always, thank customers for their feedback and let them know how you're going to use it to improve their experience.
Yeah, that's a good point. Showing that appreciation goes a long way.
It really does. All right. So we've talked about creating the surveys, but what about the data you collect? How do you make sense of all that information?
Yeah, data analysis can be kind of intimidating, especially
Yeah.
for businesses that are new to this whole chatbot thing.
I hear you there. So first things first, choose a chatbot provider that offers good reporting and analytics features.
Yeah.
You want a platform that can generate those visualizations and dashboards and reports that make the data easy to understand.
So it's all about having the right tools.
Exactly. And don't just focus on the numbers. Dive into that qualitative feedback from the open-ended questions. Look for patterns and trends and common themes.
Yeah, that's where you can really uncover those hidden insights.
Exactly. You might discover pain points you didn't even know existed or, get ideas from your products or features.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and don't be afraid to segment your data based on different customer demographics or behaviors, that can help you tailor your strategies even further.
So it's really about getting granular with the data.
For sure. And most importantly, make sure you share those insights with the right people in your organization. Customer feedback should be informing decisions across all departments.
Yeah, it's a team effort.
It is. Now, I do want to add a little caveat here. Chatbot surveys are powerful, but they're not a magic bullet.
Right.
They work best when they're part of a broader customer feedback strategy.
It's all about having that holistic view.
Exactly. And remember, technology is always evolving. So what we can do with chatbot surveys today is going to be different tomorrow. You got to stay up to date on the latest and greatest.
Okay, so always be learning.
Always be learning. Okay. Now, before we wrap up this part of our deep dive, I want to circle back to something we touched on earlier, the whole global reach of chatbot surveys.
Oh, yeah. How can businesses use these to connect with customers who speak different languages?
Well, that's a great question. And luckily, a lot of chatbot providers now offer multilingual capabilities.
Oh, wow. So you can create one survey and have it automatically translated.
Exactly. No need to create separate surveys for each language.
That's amazing. I mean, that opens up so many doors for businesses.
It really does. Okay, so as we head into the final part of our deep dive, I want to leave you with something to think about. We've talked about all the amazing things chatbot surveys can do, but what are some of the potential downsides?
Okay. The challenges, the things to watch out for.
Exactly. We'll explore that in more depth in the next segment, so stay tuned.
Okay, so we're back and ready to tackle those challenges, those potential downsides of chatbot surveys.
Right. Well, one of the biggest ones is making sure your chatbot is actually giving accurate and helpful information. If a customer asks a question and the chatbot just spits out some random nonsense, it's going to be a really frustrating experience.
Yeah, that makes sense. So it sounds like training the chatbot properly is super important.
Oh, absolutely. It's like, teaching someone a new language, the more data you feed it, the better it's going to be at understanding and responding to different questions and situations.
So it's all about having a robust knowledge base.
Exactly. And even then, there are going to be times when a human touch is needed, for those really complex issues, or when a customer just wants to talk to a real person.
So it's about finding that right balance between automation and human interaction.
Exactly. You don't want to completely replace human customer service, but you can use chatbots to handle those more routine inquiries and free up your human agents to focus on the more complex stuff.
That makes a lot of sense. Now, what about data privacy? We're collecting all this information about customers, so how do we make sure we're handling it responsibly?
Yeah, that's a really important point. You need to be completely transparent with your customers about what data you're collecting, how you're using it, and who you're sharing it with.
So no funny business.
No funny business at all. And, it's not enough to just have a privacy policy buried somewhere on your website. You need to explain things in plain language so people actually understand what's going on with their information.
Right, consent is key.
Absolutely. And of course, you need to make sure you're complying with all the relevant data privacy regulations, which can be a bit of a minefield, but, it's worth it to get it right.
Okay, so we've talked about the technical challenges, but what about the ethical ones? Could chatbot surveys be used in ways that are well manipulative?
That's a really good question. And yeah, like any tool, chatbot surveys can be misused. You could design them in a way that pushes people to buy things they don't really need, or you could use the data to target people with ads that are, a little too personalized.
Right, it's getting into that creepy territory.
Exactly. And that's why it's so important to use this technology ethically. Think about the long-term impact on your customer relationships.
It's about building trust, not breaking it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, you want your customers to feel good about interacting with your brand, and that means being upfront and honest about how you're using their data.
Okay, so as we wrap up this deep dive, I'm feeling really optimistic about the future of chatbot surveys. There are definitely challenges to be aware of, but the potential benefits are huge.
I agree. We're just scratching the surface of what this technology can do. And as it continues to evolve, I think we're going to see even more innovative and creative applications.
I can't wait to see what the future holds. So for everyone listening out there, if you're not already using chatbot surveys in your e-commerce business, it's definitely time to start exploring the possibilities.
It's a game changer for sure.
Well, this has been a fascinating conversation. Thanks so much for joining us on the Deep Dive.
It's been a pleasure.
We'll see you all next time.